Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Whiteboard. My name is Harshit, and I'm the Director of Business Alliances at PriceLabs. We are a digital agency specializing in SaaS and e-commerce SEO. I've got a very special guest with me today, Thibault. Now, Thibault is the head of marketing, product marketing at PriceLabs, and PriceLabs is a dynamic pricing tool and revenue management platform for Airbnb, Vrbo, short-term and vacation rental owners and property managers. So big welcome to you, Thibault. I'm so happy to have you with me today.
Harshit, hello, and hello everyone listening, watching. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Brilliant. Thibault, let's start with your journey in the field of product marketing and what basically led you to your current position.
Sure. So first and foremost, I'm a big fan of vacation rentals. So the industry we're in. I mean, 20 years ago, my ex and I have an ex. We're still good friends. We bought sort of by accident a vacation rental, so a second home, if you will. And actually, that was our first home. At the time, we could not afford an apartment in Paris where we were living. It was too expensive. But on a French island in the Caribbean, it sounds fancy, but we discovered that you could buy, like the banks would give you a loan to buy a house to rent it out. That was before Airbnb was out there, right? So it was like, we're like, what? We could rent out the house and I would pay back the loan we take it from the local bank. That sounds crazy. But actually, it happened again because the banks on the island knew about this business model. For them, it was very usual for the island. So how we got started, I'm like, I like this. So basically, I got in industry, and then we started having two houses in the Caribbean, one in Bali as well, because it's counter season, long story. And then I started writing, blogging about it. And at some point, I attended a conference because in the vacation industry, you have a lot of conferences for big companies who have lots of hundreds of properties. And I was speaking at a conference, and in the room, there was somebody from Booking.com out there. And they were like, it was 7 years ago. And they're like, we have to compete with Airbnb because people think we only do hotels, we're only good with hotels. We need people to join us at the headquarters. That's how I joined the headquarters of Booking.com and help them tweak their product, their strategy towards more vacation rentals. And that's how I discovered product marketing, which is basically how do you come up with the right features for a segment, and once it's developed, how do you get them to market? How do you get more adoption, or how do you get more of the market to even know that you are relevant for a segment? That's what I did, and then I left Booking.com and I started blogging again on blog I had, which is called Rental Scale Up. It was still there, which turned into a media where we do, it's still out there, where we talk about basically the industry, what Airbnb is up to. We share market data. We talk about new technologies. And at some point, actually, I started talking with PriceLabs. I was using PriceLabs for my own properties to price them to make sure I had the right price for every night. We're not missing out on any demand. And they're like, why don't we join forces? So 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, PriceLabs acquired Rental Scale Up and me. And that's how I became the head of product marketing at PriceLabs. At first, there was just me, and now there's 5 of us. That's what we do.
That's brilliant. Now let's talk about some of the unique, challenges and opportunities in marketing. Revenue management software, and basically, like if I talk about the sector, let's do short-term rental industry.
Yeah, and first, revenue management software is like, what is it? I mean, I don't know, if I talk to one of my brothers, they're like, I have no clue what you're talking about. It's like revenue management software. But if I say, hey, imagine you have an Airbnb, you have a second home, you need to price it. You need to decide on the prices for tonight, but also for the whole year, maybe next year. So how do you decide on this? How do you make sure that your prices are not too low, not too high? Also, how do you make sure maybe that, between two existing stays, maybe you want to create a discount to make sure you don't have an empty space at some point, but maybe you don't want to attract people for just one night. All these rules around pricing, length of stay, you need to automate it because, especially for me, for example, right? I had properties in the Caribbean and living in Europe at some point, or in Asia, in Indonesia. There's no way I can see what's happening in the market. So what this software is going to do, it's basically going to, we scrape data basically first, right? On Airbnb, Booking.com, Vrbo. So we see what's happening on their website. Gives us a good idea of the patterns. So for each market in the world, we can see, okay, that's a market where, for example, that's the seasonality. That's where high season, low season is. Or the booking window, which means people book more like for next 3-4 days, like in cities, or they book months in advance because maybe, again, it's an island somewhere. People have to plan, book a flight. So all these patterns we have. So basically, it's AI powered, if you will, where we assemble a lot of data. We see booking patterns. And from there, for your own listing, we know your listing is a 2-bedroom, for example, in certain location. We are able to recommend the prices. And of course, you can also create setups to customize it. So when I say this, you can see one or two challenges, which is like, first, we have to explain this in simple words. So content is very important. Written content, video content, or going to events for small hosts, a big host, or talking through influencers. There's a lot of education, for example, about Airbnb, making money on Airbnb, right? There's a lot of YouTube videos about this. So we have to talk with these people to make sure they understand what we do. So the challenge for us is explanation. The second challenge for us is it's a matter of trust, because I mean, there's a lot of tools around, but in the case of our tool, we gotta have a huge impact on your revenues. And maybe you make a big investment, you bought a second home, or maybe it's your family home, right? You with your brothers and sisters, we're gonna keep this house in the family, and the only way is to get some guests from time to time. There's a lot of, if you're the one making this bet, you have a lot of weight on your shoulders with your whole family looking at you. You better not, better have these revenues coming in and not lose the house. So there's a lot of human stories also behind to understand, and you have a lot of trust, because basically we're going to automate the pricing. Of course, people can control this. It's not a black box, but still, so it means we have to convey trust. And that's why the way for us to do this is for people to experience it for example, 30 days for free. That's what we want to drive. We want to attract people to test drive us for free for 30 days so they can see for themselves the pricing. Because basically, the moment you connect with us and your Airbnb account, for example, we can immediately give you pricing recommendations and push it to Airbnb. So you can see it, right? It's not like you have to wait long. We can immediately calculate things for you, but we have to get you there. These are the challenges: explanation, education, and experience.
Okay. I'm curious to know your sweet spot when it comes to your target ICP, your ideal customer profile. Can you please help me understand that?
It's a great question, Harshit, in the sense that we actually have several personas and segments. So I'm going to start with segments. Segments are very easy to understand. Imagine we have a lot of people who have 1 or 2 properties. So they are individuals. It's, again, as I said, maybe they invested in a second home, with their own home, family home, and they want to keep it. So for them, and they want to keep it, let's say, and they need a lot of revenues, almost most of the year, right? We're not going after someone who's renting out their place for 2 weeks, because it doesn't make sense for them to use us. We are subscription-based, SaaS, as you said, right? So we want people who are going to be there month after month. So if you only do it for 2 months, for 2 weeks a year, it does not make sense. Also, you can also have to learn a bit the tool. It's self-serve, of course, but you can have to learn the tool to have even more benefits. So again, it doesn't make sense for us to go after these people who would leave us very fast. So we go after people who have make a big decision, who have a place. We also have another persona or segments, people, for example, who have 5 to 10, sometimes 5 properties. They can still be owners, but they are serial investors. They saw they could make money and boom, 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 they invest. So these people, they want more data because, for example, they want automation. Also, they want market data. Where can I invest next? What's a good market? Should it be a 2-3 bedroom, right? They expecting this from us. And then we have another segment, which is property managers. So I meant by this is, for example, in my house in the Caribbean, at first, I was not handling the bookings and the marketing. There was a local agent who was doing this for me and for dozens of other owners. That's a property manager. So these people, they can handle 20 to thousands of properties, right? They can be very, very big. And these people, basically, they also expect from us other things. They want automation, they want market data, but also what they want to save time. What I mean is that, for example, they want us to enable them to group together listings, for example, in the same market, or maybe all the 2 bedrooms together. And maybe they want to apply the same setting, the same price settings over some groups of properties. Also, what they want in this whole list of properties to immediately see which ones these actions. So they want some kind of alerts or rankings. Say, hey, these ones, they're really underperforming. The market is going really, really well. This one is not getting any bookings. You should probably do something, right? Adjust your prices or do something like this. So that's really what we see here, right? You have the individual, you have the investors and the property managers. And obviously, if they're small or big, it's even different.
Gotcha. Right. Now, because you did adapt traditional marketing strategies, I would love to understand how exactly did you fit in, in this fast-paced environment of growing a software company like PriceLabs. Sorry,
Yeah.
PriceLabs.
Yeah. So if I go back to the segments, was such a great question first, right? Let's say the small individuals, what we want them to find us and stay self-serve. What I mean that is that our tool is easy enough. They can start using all they need is to connect us to their Airbnb account. We have an official Airbnb integration. We are a partner with Airbnb. So it's easy, just connect both, right? And immediately they can start seeing price recommendations. That's taking into account the market as well as their own performance, how they're listing, how their property is doing, right? So for them, indeed, SEO is very important. We kind of have to find the words they're looking for, and we also be found on these topics. Again, they're not necessarily going to be they're not going to be typing at first revenue management software. They may not even know it exists as a category. They may not call it this, but SEO is going to be important, as well as, for example, paid marketing. For property managers, it's also true. But here you're going to have even more need for trust signals. And one of the trust signals, for example, for these people is on top of the SEO and paid marketing, which is also true. We need to be seen as a thought leaders, right? They are businesses and they want to work with the leading businesses, right? So for them, for example, we publish articles about the industry, or that's why Rental Scale Up, which is an industry news website, was acquired by PriceLabs because we talk about the industry. So that's good association as well. So another use of content for thought leadership. And what we do, we speak at conferences around the world. It can be me, it could be a lot of people. We try to speak, just last month, we spoke in the US, in France, in South Africa, in Australia. So we really, really around the world because we want to go to big conferences to share insights about the industry, because we have so much data, we can talk about the trends. We have the data, right? And then if people trust us, they say, okay, these people, they kind of look like they understand my market. So I can choose them maybe and trust them a bit more. So here the channel for them would be, we have sales account managers in a way who will take care of this bigger accounts. So, but all this work together again, right? If at a big conference we talk and we're seen, it can trickle down for small users who can see, oh, we are also leaders and we are, people talk about us at big conferences. So it kind of looks like we're doing a good job.
Gotcha. And what's the minimum a user needs to spend on PriceLabs to get hold of the subscription?
So if you're in Europe and the US, for example, it's $19 a month for one listing. And the more listing you add, the cheaper per listing. If you're in the rest of the world, we have even a cheaper plan because of course we want to adapt to our customers.
Right. Now, can you please elaborate how exactly the transition of rental scale up into PriceLabs happened and how it has impacted your marketing approach altogether?
Sure. So RentalScape basically was a media, right? That was two of us writing content and hosting every month a conference where we talk online event, basically, where we talk about industry. We invite people sharing their best practices, for example. So transition has been very interesting in the sense that PriceLabs brief was like, we acquire you because you're a voice in the industry. Your value, what we're paying for, is the voice. So if PriceLabs start just pushing PriceLabs into the website, into the newsletter, that's going to completely kill that voice and kill the value paid for. So it was very interesting at first. I was the one who was saying, oh, we probably need to put more PriceLabs ads on the Rentals Club website And PriceLabs was like, no, that's not what we're doing. We want to keep that voice. Of course, what we did was an approach of making sure, for example, that our logo is clearly Rental Scale Up, powered by PriceLabs, or everything we do. So suddenly we didn't need to go after any sponsor for our online series anymore, kind of things. Our sponsor is PriceLabs. Also, I'm pretty visible on social media. On LinkedIn, I got quite some followers because I've been talking about the industry for a while. And of course, naturally, I also talk about PriceLabs there, right? So that was the bet here, not to change the line too much, not to push too much PriceLabs, but making sure people understand that we are part of PriceLabs, but that we're independent. That was a very, very interesting approach here. What's been good for Rentalscape as well is that obviously from time to time we expose the PriceLabs newsletter of users, which is a lot of people, prospects and users. We expose them to articles by PriceLabs, by Rentalscape, sorry. So it means we've been able to really multiply a number of subscribers by a lot. Things we're together because these insights make sense to us, to them, sorry. So they, in return, they subscribe more to us. So it's been very positive for both.
Yeah, it was done, all organic in that sense, and not killing the brand. I think, really worked on your favor as well. So yeah, that's a good start.
It's something interesting. We also talk about PriceLabs competitors sometimes. One of them has a great market report with great data.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to talk about this because I think it's useful for an industry. And that's not the first thing I'm going to send out on the PriceLabs newsletter. That's another question. But for Rental Scale Up, I'm going to talk about it. I think it's interesting and share my thoughts about it. Okay, that's what I see. That's because in the end, people still trust the voice. Can I read data? Can I see the trends? And regardless what the source is. So it's been very important for us because it's a small world in the end to stay friendly with people who now happen to be competitors, who always been a lot of them are friends actually. Before joining PriceLabs. So again, that's interesting because that's how you also, for us, you stay a leader in the industry, that you don't have this kind of like challenger attitude where you bad with people, you say bad things about competitors. That's not the attitude, because if you're a true leader, you can afford to be, talking about others, because you know what, in the end, your product is strong enough to be compared with the others and win.
Okay, on this point too, I have a good question. Do you or do you not, place bets on competitor brand name through Google Ads?
It's a good question. I will answer differently. What's interesting?
Don't be diplomatic about it.
Yeah, I will tell you, like, Airbnb has a dynamic pricing solution for its own. What I mean is that if you list your property on Airbnb, and maybe it has a tool that gives you some pricing. So in a way, one of the biggest competitors to PriceLabs is people not taking initiative, just staying with Airbnb's own pricing tool, which of course, the goal of this pricing tool is to make more money for Airbnb. It's not to optimize the revenue of the host, it's to find the right balance on the marketplace between a host and guests, right? So it's a great tool, but the goal is not aligned purely on the interest of the host. That makes sense. I have a marketplace. That's not, yeah. So a lot of keywords we want to rank on may have to do with Airbnb, for example. So is Airbnb a competitor directly? No, they don't create independent standing revenue management software. But people do look for keywords like Airbnb pricing in paid, in free. And what do people mean by Airbnb pricing? Well, Airbnb is such a strong word that a lot of people don't say, oh, I booked a short-term rental. They say, I booked an Airbnb. Or they don't say, I'm going to rent out my house to make money. They say, I'm going to Airbnb my place to make money. So when people start typing Airbnb pricing, we're not sure that they look for, maybe looking for a solution on how to price your Airbnb or this kind of thing. So what's been interesting to us is not just betting on obvious competitors' names, but thinking, how are people thinking, what they're looking for? And again, both on SEO and paid, having this approach, like how people are actually talking about the industry. I started by explaining that revenue management software is very complicated as a word. My brothers will not be typing this in Google. They'll be typing other keywords. And this is where we have to show up.
Mhm. Makes sense. All right. Now your SEO growth is quite good. The traffic trend that I'm seeing on your site is again like month on month you're growing. I would love to understand. It's a competitive market. You just shared the example of Airbnb. So I would love to know what's your secret sauce there.
Oh, wow. Okay. First, thank you for the good words on the growth. So it's really, there's a team, right? Clearly, I'm just the product marketing person here. We have a whole content team in-house. And Disha, she's the head of the content marketing, for example, right? So we have a good team here. I think what's special about us, a few things. First, and it's in-house, and when you join PriceLabs, it's always very interesting because regardless of your end role, are you a product marketer, a content person, a data scientist, a developer, everyone has to do 1 month of training as a customer support person. What's the idea here is that the expectations are that if you're going to be working at PriceLabs, you have to understand our product, what we do. Kind of makes sense, right? And also you have to understand our users. As I said, it can be small, it can be big. And as I said, also it may be complicated for them to even understand what we do. It's not that the tool is complicated. It's just like the whole, you have to think about data, numbers, and we show graphs. But some people, we in tech, for us, reading graphs is okay, but for some people, it's tricky. It's tricky to read graphs, right? And we show a lot of data in graphs. So we expect the SEO team to also do this. What it means, again, is that by doing this first, when they write about the product, they understand what they're doing. So it's less work for everybody reviewing behind, if need be. And also it means that when they talk to users, they can read, they can talk with them as well, and see the words being used by actual users. As I said, people say more like, I booked an Airbnb or Airbnb my place. So this is where you're like, for SEO, kind of like Airbnb, not as a brand, but Airbnb as a thing, as a short-term rental synonym, is important, right? So again, that's why we do this. And actually, it didn't stop after 1 month, right? You're still supposed to help with customer support. Again, so regardless who you are, and to keep this to be close to the users, because otherwise you may lose. And again, it's very tricky because, for example, it's likely very technical, right? You write about technical, not in terms of words, but in terms of technology, but in terms of technical revenue management, right? Maybe there are some specific words such as orphan nights. That's an industry term. It means basically you have 2 bookings, and in between you have a hole, as there's no booked nights there. So it's called orphan nights, which personally I find it a bit sensitive as a word, but that's how it's called by the industry, right? Yeah. So you have to understand what it is, and then say this in the way I think I explained. It's like, it's a hole between 2 bookings, and probably you want to fill it up to make money. And maybe usually you welcome 7 days, 7 days. Maybe you want to open up to 5 or 6 nights in between if you have a hole. But you have to be able, if you don't understand this, the copy for SEO, you will also struggle to do this, because the goal for SEO for us, again, is to attract people and get them to start using us. So we have to do a good job showing you we capture your traffic, but we also explain you to give you value and say, these people look interesting. I would say smart, but let's not say smart. Look kind of interesting. I should try them. That's what we want to go do.
Learn something new.
Like a lot of SaaS company, I'm guessing, is to say that's a goal, but the way we do it could be different.
Well, you actually made me learn this new interesting phrase, orphan nights. I was aware of orphan pages because I come from SEO, but yeah, interesting. All right. Now I would love to understand, like, with respect to your content marketing, what exactly, and your overall marketing strategy, what role does this content marketing play when it comes to your customer retention side of things? I understand for lead gen and all, it all makes perfect sense. But when it comes to customer retention, how exactly your content helps?
So it's a great thing. When I started working at PriceLabs, I also took over the newsletter. We have a monthly newsletter at PriceLabs. And I sent out a survey, and the newsletter was mostly about product updates. We're a tech company. We say we're very proud of our product updates, so we push product updates in the newsletter. But then we ask people, what do you want to read? And updates was only number 3. First thing you want to hear about is best practices. Kind of makes sense. If I'm a user, I want, say, and number 2 is tradings. I'm a user, I'm like, just help me get more value from your tool. And one of the ways is tell me how other people do it. And by the way, it's great if I see other people having pain because I feel less lonely. But so having this in mind, we started thinking, we write customer testimonials, a lot of them, thinking it's for lead gen, but actually, at some point, do you need 40, 50, 100 customer stories like this? Or should you stop at some point and say, what we really need as well also is best practices. So thinking about, again, of customer story, but more geared toward, let's pick a pain, how to do something, and have a customer explain how they solve it. So here, basically, we have a grid where we say, okay, we talk about the segments. Are we covering all the segments? Another point I didn't mention for SEO, what helped us as well grow is that our software is available in 5 languages now, starting last year, right? So we added 4 languages, and we said we're adding the marketing as well. We started also writing in 4 more languages, which of course is increasing the breadth of our SEO. But it's the same thing for testimonials. Some people want to hear about people in their country, right? So make sure we have segments and geographies covered. So when people want best practices, they can kind of relate to the examples we have, right? That's what's important for us. Another part of content I didn't talk about is we go a lot to the events. I said we do a lot of presentations. And again, they're not demos, right? They're clearly like US market trends. What's happening now? What do we see for the things? Or it could be even AI and pricing and the industry, because it's actually an AI tool, but we never said it before. Before this last year, AI was a bit scary for people. It was kind of scary. Nobody was like AI. And since ChatGPT, people have been like, "Oh, AI tools are useful," and we're like, "You know what? Great. You've been using PriceLabs. Good news. You've been using AI for years. You just don't know it. But PriceLabs is narrow AI. It's a form of AI. Anyway, so that's this content presentation is very important to us. And to speak at conferences, you have to submit, you have to be selected. You can't just pay your way through it. So it's also a lot of effort in the content marketing, right? And then when we do these great presentations, we want to repurpose them. So we do webinars using them with our own clients, or we do articles again using these presentations with it. So we try to repurpose a lot because, again, this thought leadership, it can be transmitted live on a webinar, through content, written content, different forms. And we share on our newsletter, for example, or social media.
Gotcha. And Thibault, tell me one more thing, because while I was looking into your traffic trend, I see that the branded traffic that you get is way too high. It's 92%, of your overall organic traffic. And I'm curious, because these kind of trend is something that you see at a very early stage of SaaS companies, or to be honest, any technology company. And what do you think are the major, factors contributing to such high, branded traffic altogether? Is it, your webinars? Is it, maybe because you take part into many physical events as well? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a great question. Sometimes we wonder ourselves, right? To be honest. And so sometimes we wonder, do we have an attribution? Is there an attribution thing here we don't see? And we just wonder sometimes. What could be happening as well is that, again, we sponsor podcasts by influencers, YouTube shows by influencers, talking to masses of small hosts. We go to conferences. So our name is out there, and hopefully what we hope then that people will start typing PriceLabs. That's what we hope. And as I said, The issue we have is that the product category, revenue management software, is not something you just type like this. I'm gonna basically usually you hear from us before you hear about the category, which is sort of a pain, right? Sometimes because in a lot of countries when we enter, we are the one is educating about this thing. It exists. Yes, you have software that can automate these things. And so, which is true, we have two big competitors, and they're also doing a great job educating the markets, right? So in the end, it's that's why we saw so as well with them. That could be one of the reasons to see this.
Okay. Are you also doing leveraging a lot of digital PR as well as your strategy?
PR in what way?
PR as in press release around your, anything which is newsworthy. Could be a new product launch, could be feature one.
Yeah, it's a good one. We do in two ways. For example, in the industry, the biggest travel news website that share a lot of, I'm talking about for travelers, but for travel companies, is called like something that Airbnb employees or Booking.com employees would read, or our employees would read. It's called Skift. And last week, for example, Skift published an article using completely PriceLabs data and naming us, linking to us, of course, backlink, and about the solar eclipse in the US. There's going to be a big solar eclipse. And on the path of the solar eclipse that's going to be coming in the US, we can see that occupancy, the number of bookings, has increased by 3. It's amazing. We have all the data for all the cities, so we could give them a map. So we drew a map of the US, well, we took a map of the US, sorry, and we drew the path of the eclipse. And then for key markets we had, we put the data and did a quick report for Skift and give it to them. So for us, it's very important because in this way, it's PR, but it's more like not just, we also do press release from time to time. The press release that really work, it's not really about us. The one that works is like when we share market data. Like when we entered France last year, for example, when we launched a French version, instead of saying, yeah, we're in French, which nobody cares about really, like, oh, great, you're in French, who cares? We're like, okay, that's the market data we have for France for this summer. That's what we see, yada, yada. And by the way, it's, of course, by us, PriceLabs, and we're happy to announce we are also available in French. So that makes sense. So that's for PR. And again, working with the press. For the press, we try to be things. So what we do, for example, we have a free tool on our website called STR Index that anybody can use for free, the press, for example, and you can have trends for every country in the world. You can see how things are going, what have been in the past or the future. We have data for the future because we know we want to be seen as a resource. So then they quote us and backlink to us by being useful.
Okay. No, but that's a brilliant strategy. To be honest, and SEOs understand
But
the
you create this tool, the tricky bit, then you have to have people who do the campaign for you, right? And sometimes we run out of time. We have to have somebody in the team say, have you written back to all these news websites, explain to us what we have, and have you taken the time to show them quick demo of the tool, how it works, the value for them? It's time. So you have these great strategies, but and if you have nobody then acting on them, going back to the news website, say, we have these resources, remember? They forget about it. So it's not like you can build and forget, right? You need somebody to do this. So sometimes some people, what they do, they hire a PR agency to do it. For the moment, it's still we do it internally. That's more our way of doing things, but it's someone needs to do it, right? That's time and money.
For sure. Outreach needs to be taken care of, and unfortunately, like that, this is a specific area for many companies. This is still like not a priority. So yeah, when they'll hire people for SEO, they'll hire people for content, but no one for the outreach, and it adds tremendous value, to be honest. So, all right, let's talk about because on your platform side, PriceLabs emphasizes a lot on automation and data-driven approaches. How do these principles basically translate into your own, SEO and marketing efforts altogether? Like what are some of the processes within, SEO or, any other marketing efforts that you have automated?
That's a great question. Last year, we did So we're all remote. The whole company is remote. So we almost never meet. We do meet at conferences. So it's really funny. Sometimes we go to conferences, industry events, and we're so happy because also we meet our clients, very happy. We also meet each other. Oh, have you been? How are the kids? So it's interesting. But once or twice a year, we do meet. Everybody comes together. And last year, I co-organized a hackathon for the whole company, right? The hackathon for the company is not just tech stuff, right? Here, for example, one of the outcome of the hackathon was a way for us to use the market. We have a lot of market data, for example, right? As I said, you can use this market data to see what the trends are in the US, in France, in India, right? Different markets. So what we did during hackathon, we said, how about we tap into ChatGPT, or actually one of the GPTs, and we just say, take the market data of the market and then create an article out of it. Oh, here are the trends we see in the US, blah, 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 by using things. And you can imagine you can even refresh it every month. So suddenly every month you can have an article about the market. So we did this for the hackathon. So I can't say it was successful. I can't really say what we've done since when, but it's something we're doing. Even in our product, right? We also basically, in our product, we also have content in the sense that we realize that just showing tables and graphs for some people is kind of tricky. Some people need to read stuff. So tapping into GPT as well to be able to, or Gemini, depending on who you want, but to be able to interpret the data into words, it's something we're using. So you can imagine, why not? I can't say too much, but that's also something we could be doing to write content, right? Automate content creation by tapping into insights. But obviously, you still need people to read stuff because it has to make sense. And again, if you just basically turning a table of content into an article, you're going to be lacking value because you need somebody to tell you that's where it happens and that's what it means. Right? You still need somebody to interpret this. So but it does automate and save time. Yes.
No, makes sense. Makes perfect sense. All right. Now, I would love, like, because, given your leadership experience, what advice would you give to, marketers looking to navigate basically the unique challenges in the short-term rental industry, over like it's kind of like, working in your space altogether?
Yeah. I think it's like any industry, it's important to be close to your segments, to understand how you're segmenting and understand the personas that could be in the segment across segments, right? And it's true that if you are a host yourself, it's easier because you can understand a lot of the pains. Of course, you should never think, oh, that's your own experience is the truth, right? But your own experience can help you open up your mind to how people think, because obviously you have to write about the short-term industry. And if you've not been a host yourself, you're missing out. You're missing out because you miss out some factors. For example, the fear people have of damage, right? People will come to my house and break stuff. Maybe that's family things. Maybe that's more invested my savings to the second home. I'm afraid. And that's the biggest reason people to stop hosting is damage. So if you do these kind of things, in whatever, how you're marketing, copy, talking about risks, it's going to be, you're going to miss out on this. The other thing to consider as well is obviously you have to keep up with what the big players are doing. We are vendors in the industry, but we talk about Airbnb or Booking.com, Verbal. It's very important to understand what they're doing because a lot of people hosts are getting bookings from these platforms, or guests are booking on these platforms. So if you don't understand how they work, what they do, again, in the way you're marketing, the way you're writing content, you're missing out because people are like, yeah, you're writing about Airbnb. That's not the way it works. If you do this, kind of looks like it's really bad for your brand because it kind of looks like you don't even understand the big players. That's what I would say, right? It's really, really important to, but that's true, I think, for any industry, right? Know what you're talking about. And it's sometimes it's easier for consumer industry, right? If you do, I don't know, if you sell milk, maybe you drink milk, it's easier to get it. But here we sort of suddenly ask you to be to produce milk, to be a host. It's a different thing, right? So that's what makes it interesting. And the last thing I want to say about the industry, it's also a very cool industry. A lot of time you have a lot of people who are maybe expats who started living in a different country, said, "Oh, what can we do?" Used to be some people became taxis. That was the thing to do. Or Uber drivers, right? So a lot of people say, "You know what? I'm gonna be a host on Airbnb, and I'm gonna help other people host their place. Maybe I can't afford to buy a house, but I can do this hosting thing for other owners." And we've seen this as a path for entrepreneurship for a lot of people, especially expats. And then when you go to these kind of industry events, you talk with people who have had so many different lives. It makes it very cool. It's a very cool industry with very cool, open-minded people.
For sure. All right, Thibault, we're coming to an end, and I would love to have a quick rapid fire with you. Are you ready for that?
Wow, let's do it.
Okay. What habit holds you back the most?
Mhm. Probably prioritizing my team's needs over mine sometimes. I really make sure that we won. Short.
What,
Everybody knows this at home. It's fine.
right, what subject do you find to be most fascinating?
um, mm, I think, okay, it's going to sound very cliche, but the possibilities of AI
No?
for businesses, because it's there. It's not the future. There's a lot of solutions currently, right? People don't know that, but it's really enabling for small companies to start competing with big ones by using tools that they have. These big companies could only pay that small ones can do. And I think all us SaaS companies can really have lots to do here to empower small entrepreneurs. Very excited about this.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, this is a good time to be interested in the subject, to be honest, with all the, AI stuff going around. So, yeah. What career did you dream of having as a kid?
Diplomats. I always wanted to be in travel and live abroad. So I'm not a diplomat. Actually, I did the studies for that the first year, and I looked at the people around me. I'm like, do I really want to work for the government? Don't think so. So, but still, I'm abroad and I'm traveling. So yeah, almost there.
Yeah, nice. Okay, now coming to a very last question. What did you last search on Google?
Sorry, what did I?
What did you last search on Google?
The last search on Google. That's a good one. If I only remembered. Mm. Well, yes, I attended yesterday evening a panel in my city on AI, and I was looking for the word of a speaker, the name of a speaker, to know more about what they did in the past. So I googled somebody.
Wow. All right. Thank you, Thibault. Really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for joining in and sharing, so many years of experience, on this industry. Learned a new phrase as well. So thank you so much for it. Often days. So sorry, often nights. So thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. And if people want to contact me, just go to LinkedIn and find me out, and I'm very happy to connect.